From beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, you are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Show, and I sure do appreciate you spending your time with me today. My guest is going to be one Mr. Kelby Casebolt, and he is someone I had the privilege of meeting at the Libertarian Party National Convention before party, the pre-activities, and we got to hang out a little bit, which was a lot of fun. And he was formerly involved with the Libertarian Party of Texas, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that. He is the founder and owner of Liberty Chain, which is an advocacy forum for blockchain and liberty and all of his activism. And he's also volunteering with a group called Fully Informed Jury Association. And we're going to get into that a little bit because they're doing some really cool stuff. And he's also the dad of an adorable little guy. How old's your son now? 3, 4?
6.5.
Oh, 6.5. I thought he was younger than that. He's so cute. I love his little pictures. So
He's a little bit smaller than most 6-year-olds, but he's 6. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into this a little bit first about the Fully Informed Jury Association. And I had never heard of them before, but you had mentioned it, and I got to looking into them, and they're really cool. They've been around almost 30 years. So tell me a little bit about these guys.
So it derives from, when they set up the Constitution and all that stuff, they gave the juries the right to be the judge or whatever, they could nullify the law, basically, if it was wrong or not. And so they use that method of their power to really fight against like the slave laws. Whenever they would be in trouble for helping runaway slaves, they nullified those laws, and that's one way they help end slavery. And then the prohibition, alcohol prohibition, they stopped convicting people for making their own alcohol and stuff. And so now, 100 years later, or however many years later, this group has formed, and we think it's basically the Achilles heel of the state.
Yeah, I mean, you see it right now in a lot of places with marijuana. People are going, this is not what we've been told it is. It's not terrible. People aren't dying. Like, it's just the more information that's gotten out there, the more the public has gone, this is really crap. Like, it's not, we shouldn't be telling people that they can't smoke this plant, especially with all of the benefits that cannabis has. And I think even with gay marriage, we saw that where I don't really agree with how the Supreme Court did it, but it was something that the rest of the country was okay with. Like, most people in the country were going, we shouldn't be involved in this. No matter how you feel about homosexuality, it's more people going, you know what, it's really not my business. And I think it was right as far as the fact that government shouldn't be involved in anybody's relationship, much less, two consenting adults that just want to live, and it doesn't harm anyone else. So there's no reason they should be involved in it. So I think we see nullification in a big way right now, but people don't know that's what it is. And, the 10th Amendment Center works really, really hard too, with just talking about nullification, getting companies, they were fighting with that organization to get rid of the NSA facility that was using, millions of gallons of water in the desert, and they were like to the state, well, let's just cut their water. And they did. They were, they've been doing some really good work. So there's a lot of people out there that are actually doing things to nullify bad laws. And I know that that's something the founding fathers were really, really thought was important, is that not only should you be judged by a jury of your peers, but that those peers should be able to say whether the law was right or not. And I think we get a lot of injustice in the fact that most judges, or during voir dire, when they're figuring out who's going to be on the jury, a lot of if you say anything about nullification, you're automatically out. Like, they're not even they're done. And the judges will, when a jury comes back and says, well, we don't think the law is right, he'll go, you have to make a decision. They never inform them about nullification. And what do you think about that? What do you think their purpose is in doing that?
Yeah, they want to just push through, their laws and get it right through. And I think most of them don't even get to a jury. So they just want the conviction. They want, your money as fast as they can get it. So yeah, if we taught, all these people that, they can think for themselves, and the majority of them were, people who thought for themselves, then we would eventually get a lot of things nullified, and then,
Yeah,
the state doesn't want that.
Yeah, I think it's the authoritarianism of it, that we are the authority and we're going to get a conviction because it looks good for all of us sitting in this courtroom if we can get convictions. The DA, the judge, everybody, they look tough on crime, look like they're really protecting you, and they really care very little about the truth and what happens to people and their families, and whether the laws are even correct or not. They don't see that as their job. And I recently had Hannah Cox from Conservatives Concerned About the Death Penalty on, and we talked about this, how, you think the appeals process is something that is supposed to be about, well, was the truth found out at the last trial? But that's really not what it's about. It's about, did they get a fair trial? That's why people can have exculpatory evidence and the court can say, no, we're not doing another trial because you got a fair trial the first time, even if new evidence has come to light in a lot of cases. So yeah, I think there's so many problems with the justice system, and nullification is one of the biggest things that we can be aware of and informed on in order to really start having a little bit fairer of a playing field in the country, even though, as long as the state's around, that's really not possible. But I was looking at some of the statistics on the Fully Informed Jury Association site, and they've got a really great website, by the way. And I think there's still areas where they're filling in some things, but 95% of criminal cases are resolved by plea bargaining. And a lot of times those plea bargains are really pressured on people, and that there's extra punishment for refusing a plea bargain. Or they do that all the time, where if you don't plea, we're going to add on this and that, and it's just terrible.
It's evil.
Yeah, it is evil. It is evil. And they really back people into a corner. So what are some of the things that you've done with FIJA? Is it FIJA? Is that what they call themselves? Or
FIJA.
FIJA. Okay. Kind of like Fiji.
Yeah. So like I said, the people in the volunteerist community of Dallas, like we've got, a lot of them, they've been doing the outreaches and passing out the pamphlets at the courthouse and stuff. And a couple weeks ago, the cops came out and busted them out, and they started taking pamphlets from all the people. And so then they asked me, hey, can you come film us? And at the same time, I quit my job, so now I'm free on Mondays. So now I can go up there and hang out with them and help them out. And I filmed them, made that video, and then cops didn't. I mean, they came out, but they didn't crack us down. And
yeah, I saw that you
awesome.
Came prepared with the laws that time, because there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to pass out a pamphlet about jury nullification and informing jurors of their rights as jurors. And I think this is one of the things that really the perception of jury duty has to change, because I've been guilty of it too before in the past, before I understood how important jury duty is, in that you have so much power as a juror to, like if I am called to be on a case where someone's going up a nonviolent drug crime, I can screw that whole case. I can say, you know what, he's not guilty, and they don't have the right to force me to vote another way. So you really can be a hero to someone and keep someone's family intact. Now the state may come back after them, but you are able to really affect. Like it's one of the actual powers that we have. Like voting doesn't do much for us, but man, jury duty really does. We really can make a difference in the way things are going and in people's lives. So I think that
exactly. And there's more people convicted for, I think, marijuana charges than there are violent crimes in prison.
Wow.
So it's like that right there, there'd be half as many people ripped out of the family,
Yeah, there's so much. I don't know. I have so much disdain for the prison system and the things that these people, especially young men, go through in prison. And I think if the left were really concerned about rape culture, they would be way more concerned about people going to prison for violent crimes, because I honestly believe there's probably more rape in male prisons than there is in the rest of the country. Not that it's not important outside of those walls either, but these people are being sent into be victimized for doing something that is nonviolent and didn't coerce anyone, didn't hurt anyone. So I think that we have to really push people on these. That's why I like to call them rape cages, because I think that's what they are, and they're just a terrible place.
Yeah.
It rips the families apart. It does a lot of bad stuff for society, and yet we still have these people who have this mindset of authoritarianism where, well, it's against the law, so they need to pay their penalty. And really,
Yeah.
you think someone should be going and getting raped or being taught how to be a criminal, actual criminal for, smoking some weed? I don't.
Exactly. And then you have to pay. Then you're subsidizing their living in a prison cell too.
Yeah.
It's like so evil.
It is evil, and the thing is, often even if they get like a light sentence, what they would consider a light sentence, they can't just go back out into society and get a job and do the things that they need to do. It's not like they can pick up, and I think it's really rich a lot of times for people, especially people who are religious people who believe in forgiveness and redemption and things like that, to be so hard-nosed to these people. And they often, these people there, it's very hard for them to find redemption and just start back again. They go back into their lives damaged from this experience. And so I have a real problem with the kind of hard-heartedness of, well,
Right.
you did the crime, now you should do the time, especially when it's nonviolent. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about your involvement in the voluntarist community in Dallas. Now, you were telling me before the show that you guys have like 20 that meet up every once in a while, and that's amazing.
It is really cool, and you make like priceless friends too, and none of them want to force you to do things, so it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Fort Worth side, we have like 10 to 20 people every other Thursday, and then the Dallas side, 10 to 15 on any given Thursday, and we just eat, and then we go have some coffee, and talk about and plot, our next move and stuff.
It's great. It's so, building that community around common belief. I mean, that's why religion is important to people, right? Often it has much less to do with doctrine and more about community for a lot of people. And so I think, especially as voluntarists, we're such a minority. Like I would wonder if there's 100,000 people in the country that are actually would call themselves a voluntarist and know what it is.
Oh, yeah. I have the belief that everyone's a voluntarist. They just believe, bad things. They're taught bad things growing up. So it's unlocking that key in their brain,
Yeah. Now you're right. I mean, I think most people would say, because even you talk to people and they say, well, you and I aren't bad, but we have to have this law because men aren't angels. And I'm like, no, we don't need these rulers because men aren't angels. We're giving these people way too much power. Why do you assume that if I'm not going to go rob and steal from my neighbor, that someone else would, just because there's not a law against it or there's not a state to, like, come on. It's just a new way of thinking. And I know it took me, I was in my 30s before I came to libertarianism and then to voluntarism. So I think it's really great that you guys have that kind of community there. And there's more in Knoxville here than I thought there were. I'm finding out. So I'm thinking of
you build it, they'll come. They will come.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just the fact that you get together, you give people an opportunity to come in and kind of see what it's about and hear people and hear about, what they've got, what we're doing, what we actually believe. So I think it's a good idea. Maybe I'll be able to start something here, which brings me to my next question for you. That you recently left the Libertarian Party, and so what's that all about? What were your sort of reasons about that? Because I know you were really involved before.
Yeah. So, are you okay? Is that okay? Okay. So he kept calling me.
Oh, that's fine. Take care of your little guy. That's sweet.
So yeah, I found out all about libertarianism, and you know, of course, you kind of are taught you vote and get your good guys in there, and then they fix everything. So it's like, okay, well, I'm a libertarian. There's a Libertarian Party. I need to. This is how we do it. So I figured that was the way to do it. So I joined up, and then I just kept learning, kept reading, kept reading Hayek. God, what was that movie? Or book, The Fatal Conceit. That really shook my brain.
I haven't read it. I don't know that I've read much Hayek at all, actually. Probably should.
Yeah, he's wrote a lot of good stuff, and then just being friends with Patrick Smith. I don't know if you know him, and Larkin Rose.
Running for not governor, Patrick
Mm-hmm.
and Larkin. He's great. Yeah.
Yep, and just discussing everything with them, and just came to
hello. Get that smile.
Just came to the realization that we're already free. So like, if you have to vote and ask for your freedom, then you're saying you're not free in a way, and you're asking for permission in a way. So
yeah,
that's like flawed right there for one. And then God, where was I? So yeah, and just all the effort that goes into that, and then the election cycle's over and you lose, and then all that human energy is just wasted. All that money's gone. All that time that you could have, been maybe building up, your neighborhood, or
actually producing good things in the world, right? Yeah, there's so much to that. I think I interviewed Larkin a few weeks ago now, maybe a month ago, and even since then, I think I've come to more realizations about, just more solidified in my own view about the political system, because I've sort of always taken the Lysander Spooner approach of, well, if you're gonna, this guy's gonna screw you this much, and this guy's gonna really screw you more, that you should probably vote in order to, sort of an act of self-defense, which I still don't necessarily disagree with. But as far as, I don't really vote either, but as far as being involved in the political system, this whole thing with Kavanaugh is really sort of cemented a lot of the reasons why I think you have to be principled. And this whole Rand Paul not, going along with this, I'm really, like, I was never a huge Rand Paul fan, but I thought, I love that there's someone speaking out against, the wars, and, his filibuster against the Patriot Act and all these things. And yet, for political expediency, when it counted the most for someone to stand up and say, I will not comply to this, I will not consent to this, he folded. And, he said, well, I talked to him, and, and people are like, well, he must have heard something that settled his mind. I'm like, why would that make you feel better that in private they go and talk and you have no idea? And to me, that's just, it's the same old game, and it's not getting us anywhere. And I think I'm ready to put my efforts into something that I think is really going to provide goodness and be profitable in the world as far as helping people, and just a better use of my time. I don't know. I'll still probably hang out with the local guys, but I'm just a little discouraged by all the politics.
Yeah, and the whole thing that keeps everything up is it's the belief in it. Like, you wake up, you're not in chains. You don't wake up and there's government right there in your face. Yeah. You give these people the legitimacy by voting for them and stuff like that. And if you just stop doing that, you just have life, and you don't have all that, power that they have and stuff, and tribalism. That's what that is, tribalism.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right when you say you just have life. And really, that's what anarchism is. Like, anarchism is the natural state of humans. And so we live it every day. Like, nobody had to tell us to get, we figured that getting together and talking about this stuff on our own. I woke up this morning and, nobody had to tell me what I needed to do. I figured that out all for myself. So
it's anarchy.
Yeah, people don't realize, they get afraid of it because the state has done a really good job of making itself necessary and making people afraid of not having overlords. And so I I know people call us idealists, and I think, yeah, I am an idealist. Like, exactly. My ideal is for people to be able to live without being told what to do constantly, and being forced to do things that are immoral and that they don't want to do. So I think there's something worth being an idealist for. And if you don't have ideals, then what's the point? Like, what's the
Yeah.
point of doing it? But I know
It's like, yeah, it's like if you don't know where your line is, then you can always move where you are. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a line.
yeah, that's what principles are for. They're supposed to be immovable, and that's where I think there's a place for pragmatism on a small scale. But when you find yourself advocating for someone like Kavanaugh, for political expedience and calling that pragmatic, I just think that's pouring yourself out to evil. That's not pragmatic. That's just selling out. So I'm really, really frustrated at the moment with that. But I used to think that
Yeah.
maybe we could, choose or in the state or do things, get subsidiarity where you have smaller governance at a small level, which would still be great. It'd be a much greater thing. But I don't see the state going away anytime soon, unfortunately. So I know you.
And one thing.
Oh, sure.
And one thing. And a problem with that, you're asking a bunch of people who want there to be government to vote away the government. Like,
Exactly.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's that is the realization that I've come to as well. That I don't know if you've heard of Jonathan Haidt, and he wrote a book called The Righteous Mind, and it's subtitled "Why Good People Disagree About Politics and Religion," and it's a great book. I've read it like 4 times. I love it. But one of the things that he has said, and he didn't say it in this book, but he spoke to some libertarians because he talks about libertarian in there more than most people give any thought to libertarianism. But he spoke at a libertarian something, and he said, what you guys don't realize is that most people would feel very lost and disoriented in a libertarian world. And I thought about that, and I'm like, you know what? That's true. A lot of people would, because they've become so reliant on being told what to do that they feel scared about trusting themselves to do the right thing without a state or without, someone telling them what to do. So I know you and I had been in a conversation online about there's someone, and I couldn't find the original person I was speaking to about it, but about maybe having like it's sort of almost like they do with the Native American reservations, and sort of just kind of opting out. How likely do you think that is, and what have you been talking with people about in that line of thinking?
So I'm not exactly 100% sure who created it, but the person who added me was Murdoch Pisgatti. I don't know if you know Murdoch.
I do.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I think I'm Facebook friends with him.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past him to make that. I talked to him about that the other day. But yeah, the idea is we have so much deferring opinions or dissenting opinions against the state that we don't fit in the state.
Yeah.
So if we were able to acquire some sort of special economic zone here in the United States, we could have our own little area like the Indians do, because it's the same thing. It's no different.
Yeah.
So it's a movement to basically ask for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thought. I'm wondering if, if you have a breakout of freedom, if the state's really going to allow that to happen, but I'm for that because I feel like, so often we don't fit in the rest of society, and all we want to do is be left alone. And, I really, I like the idea of like Lieberland, places like that, or the seasteading that people are working on. Like, all those things are great because it doesn't force or even try to convince so many people that are never going to go for it to do anything different. So it's us being able to change. And I wonder if any of the native tribes would be interested in like allowing people to come on and start businesses. And because I know a lot of the reservations are very, poor and in need of a lot of business. And a lot of things, infrastructure that they're in need of. So I wonder if any of them would be interested in sort of making like alliances and allowances for things like that. And that way that's already that land is already kind of set aside.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. We could make a Indian exploratory committee of that thing or something. But another idea is buying a city. They sell cities all the time for a couple
Yeah.
million. It would take 100 anarchists, 20,000 each
Yeah.
to buy a city.
I've seen several like those come up every once in a while. Like there's a, California city that's basically dying out and they're trying to sell the whole thing. And for $6 million, I'm like, oh, if
How
only.
cool would that be?
Even if you just move there and just, I doubt that we could get out from paying taxes because they would strafe us. So the drones would come and strafe us. But if you could just do that minimum thing to be left alone, that might be worth it to be able to live in peace somewhere. But
Maybe we could make a deal where, we could pay them a percentage of something. But
yeah,
yeah,
it'd be great just to get out from under it completely. But I don't know.
yeah. Have you heard of Tehran, Mexico?
No, I don't
About
know.
7 years. About 7 years ago, there was some company that was working, or forget how exactly it all went down, but this group of women armed up and kicked out all the government, all the police.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they just been a city for like 7 years, just total anarchy.
No.
Sharon, Mexico.
And
yeah.
they're not all dead, and it's
No.
been the Mad Max war zone down there.
No,
Yeah.
it's all peaceful. You can just go there and walk around, and it's good to go.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's amazing, and you hear about things where people do this kind of stuff, and the only reason people, like you said before, it's that we give legitimacy to it in our own minds. That's the only reason that people think that they're gonna suffer if there's not someone protecting them, having their big protector, or being told what they need to be doing. Like, I can figure out with my neighbors how to live in my neighborhood. We can figure out in our city how to live in our city. We don't need, like, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit, for one, about being able to do things. This country, when it was founded, there weren't laws telling people how to do everything they needed to do in life. People did it. There were several years between the Declaration of Independence, which was a great document, and the Constitution, which gave us centralized government, where people lived and figured things out. And we're here today. It worked, apparently, even though it's sort of gone downhill.
Spontaneous order.
Yes,
That's all it is.
definitely. Which is great. I see he looks like he's getting a little tired. What a cutie. So, tell me a little about your son. I know he's got some special things going on. So what a cute little guy. Tell us a little about him. He's kind of a little hero, a little trooper.
Yeah, he's so he was born with bones that are more brittle than ours. Right. And so we just got to be a little careful, Can't do too many backflips off the couch,
His eyes lit up. That's cool.
So it's called osteogenesis imperfecta, and there's no cure for it. But I think with like the advancements in like CRISPR, I don't know if you know of CRISPR and gene editing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think within like 10 years they'll be able to target the gene, destroy it, and put the good gene in there, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
But if they could happen, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. My sister is a paraplegic. And I know the advancements that... Oh. Did I lose you? Hello?
Hey, got a phone call. No,
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. No, I was just saying my sister's a paraplegic, and the advancements since she was paralyzed. We were in an accident in '95 that she was paralyzed from, and it's amazing the stuff that's happened since then. So I'm fully hoping that someday there'll be a lot more help for all people with spinal cord injury or genetic disorders. I think that's a really beautiful part of technology where people can actually live better lives. And I remember talking to you about him when in New Orleans, and how proud you are of him and just his attitude, and that's really great. I think your outlook with him is such a great one of, we're just going to live our life and do our thing, and you might have to modify some things, but you're going to do great.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to just keep moving forward. So I think it's such a great story, and there is a documentary about him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what's
It's
that?
called Living Differently. The Boy with Glass Bones or something like that.
Cool. Ah.
Okay, I texted her so she shouldn't anymore. That was his mom.
Okay, no problem. No
Yeah.
problem. All right. Well, I think we're probably pretty much done, anyways. So tell us the website where people can look into the Fully Informed Jury Association, and that's in Dallas, or is it nationwide?
So it's fija.org is the website, and we have a few, outreaches, I think, over on the East Coast, and then a few in Dallas. So we're trying to start them all up. We need them in every city.
Cool.
We need to start informing juries that we can nullify the state. Easy.
That's great. So anyone interested in doing that should go to FIGA.org and check them out.
FIJ.
JA, yes, FIJA. Jury is with a J. Yeah. Let's go check them out, and you can maybe get involved and do some good in your community with informing people about their actual responsibility to each other, not some kind of responsibility to vote harder, but actually a responsibility to make sure the laws in your community are what your community stand for. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you having this conversation with me and informing us a little about FIJA, which I'm surprised I'd never heard of, but it's a great organization. I'm excited to look into more. So anything, you have any special projects or any online stuff you want to promote?
I would love to shill Patrick's platform, Disenthrall.
Yes, he's got a great podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
His podcast. I just watched the one about unintellectual property, which I thought was great. So he's great. I really, really admire Patrick, and he's got a lot of wonderful things to say. So good guy.
I would recommend having him on your show or going on his show and talking.
Yeah, I need to.
Awesome.
I need to do that. I really do, and I've thought about it before, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So I definitely need to do that. But yeah, it's been great having you and your little guy there, your little friend.
Wait, you want to say hi?
He's like interested in his little block.
I just can't wait till Austin 2020 with me, you, and Scott Horton on the streets of Austin.
I wonder if I've never been to Austin. I would love to go, but if I go, I would. That would be a fun time. So
yeah, I'm going for the people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna maybe go hang out and have fun. So I know Daniel is gonna go. He has renewed his LP membership, or I thought you were gonna burn your card when they put Bill Weld up for nomination. That's a whole other episode we could do. Yeah. So, anyways, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate you doing this, especially on such short notice. And yeah, it was good to see you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, no problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that's it for us today. You can catch me where you found me already, and also Postcards from Somalia. Both Sherry Voluntary Show and Postcards from Somalia are products of Little L Productions. And you can also catch Sports Ball, which is a new show with Mike Maharry and Alan Mosley. Really great. Even if you don't like sports, I actually enjoy that show, and I'm not really a big, huge sports fan. And of course, The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley is also on Little L Productions, so check us out. Peace.